Will spring football look the same this year, much less years in the future? My name's Bryce Coon. That's Ralph Leary. We're talking about it on today's episode of The Crowded Booth.
Pile in here and make yourself feel at home. The Crowded Booth is coming on. The Crowded Booth with Bryce Coon.
All right, welcome you in to The Crowded Booth. My name is Bryce Coon alongside Ralph Leary, and we're talking very quickly, just kind of immediate thoughts on what's happening with spring football games, Ralph. We've talked about this on the live shows before. It's going to look different. We're not going to see your traditional spring games. I know down here at LSU, it's going to be some sort of OTA type of thing that fans can come and see. Look, that works for the NFL. A lot of fans get to go and watch their team work out at the practice facilities. No Falcons fans, they go to Flowery Branch. You enjoy watching a mid-football team do what they do. That being said, spring football, it looks like it's going to shift that way. One of the components that we're seeing, maybe the rumors of, I should say, start to kind of trickle down is, you know as well as I do, we live for those social media clips with NFL teams, the joint practices, and then you have your preseason games. The news kind of starting to come out and trickle out, and we saw this, I guess, last week or 2 weeks ago. Deion Sanders said that he wanted someone to play in a spring game, and Fran Brown answered the call. Now, whether that was a bluff or that's real, I'll leave that up to your imagination. But Fran Brown did go on the record in saying the following. It's in the hands of the NCAA right now. We're all locked in. Me and Coach Prime are excited, he said, after a spring practice this past week. I love Coach Prime since I met him when I started recruiting his son Shiloh back at Baylor. He's just been straight class. A dude trying to show all the young dudes how to come up in the game, how to do stuff the right way, and just be yourself. We've been locked in, and we really hope this happens. Now, look, kind of moving forward with that. Syracuse.com, Javon Edwards reported that the compliance offices of Colorado and Syracuse have actually filed, Ralph, the necessary paperwork in order to scrimmage against each other. This would be unprecedented. It would be something very different. Then the news kind of comes out, over the past 24 hours, I should say. Mike Gundy says, why don't we revive Bedlam for a spring game and charge $25 a head and use it towards NIL. We could get in the weeds in this conversation, but I'll tell you one thing. I like this idea. I think as we move more towards a pro model in this sport, whether you like it or not, I don't love it. But as we're moving in that way, why not have some joint practices, some joint scrimmages? Why not offer this opportunity? And look, we're football fans. I wouldn't mind watching, some spring games against some, competition that you probably are not going to see during the fall.
Was it 2020, Bryce, when we had the FCS schools play or
yes,
some schools
play football? Yeah,
spring football. It was kind of crazy. It was kind of weird having football on in May.
Yeah,
that wasn't like the XFL now. But I want to go back to what I was yesterday with at Auburn with Hugh Freeze. What he had to say about spring games was he would like to have a schedule an in-state team also, but have every profit of the game, $5 each ticket, go to charity.
Ooh,
just have both teams have a charity to choose from, and they split the profits right down the middle, and then it goes to each charity, and it works perfectly out. He goes, I just rather have practice instead of a game. I don't want people to get hurt. We practice every day. We let everyone come in right before. We do like a meet and greet with the players, pictures and all that stuff, and then go right out to the field and practice to our 15, 16 scheduled sections, and we move on from there. Or he was like, just forget spring ball.
Okay.
Early June going to OTAs with, your whole entire team. Because you think about it, after spring practice is over, Bryce, that portal opens right back up.
Yeah.
And there's some guys who aren't on campus yet. And he made it clear, like, we don't have these guys yet. The portal still is, doesn't declare what was going to happen. And it in these coaches' minds, like there's guys who are third in the depth chart who are going to leave probably.
Yeah.
I mean, you see it every day. There's guys who are probably frustrated they're not even practicing and not playing very much. And it's just it's underwhelming seeing that it go into spring games when you're watching your starters play 2 or 3 drives and they're done.
Yeah.
And you're watching the guys who will never see the field that year. And it's
still, or they're auditioning for somewhere else.
Right. And it's the truth, because you'll see if you go on social media, I know I see it a lot. And I know you do too, is college athletes putting out film of practice.
Yeah.
saying I have 3 years of eligibility. I'm in the portal, and because they had no game film, their game films from high school, and they might have walked in, on a game for a kick return or two,
Yeah.
and what happens is with spring is it just ruins the whole point, of this. And you talked about having Oklahoma State go and play a game for Bedlam. Yes, I like the idea of that, but it doesn't mean anything. It
That's
doesn't
true.
mean what it used to mean. Like into
Yeah.
this season, you're ready. Okay, Bedlam's here, man. It's no matter what happens that game, it's always a good game. It's always fun to watch. It's Bedlam. I like what Fran Brown and Deion are doing. It's good. It's growing the spring practice and growing spring games because in high school football you have real spring games.
Mhm.
Some do it. We never did it in high school, but I mean,
Yeah. But
I wish
it's real now. Yeah.
it is. Um, and I stand by it. I think I've said it multiple times on the show, Bryce. Ole Miss is doing it right. The Grove games, 7-on-7. They have a dunk contest. They have a chicken nugget eating contest. They do all these fun little games. Fans come and see for free. Um, you know, they do all these cool events and stuff, and it's fun. Like last year, I'm looking at it right here, Bryce. Last year they had the Grove games. They had a dunk contest. And the judges were Cody Core, Elijah Moore, Murphy Holloway, Chris Beard, and AJ Brown. You know,
Yeah.
you had a solid group of guys who, you had a basketball player, a head coach, a guy who's playing in the NFL. You had, Elijah Moore was also in the NFL. And, you had another guy who was leaving, who was a senior. It was fun. They had a great time, and it worked out well. And Lincoln said it was successful. They're going to do it again this year.
Yeah. No, and look, I'll say this, and then I got a second topic that I was talking with some people down here in Baton Rouge about the other day. I think that, and I've said this multiple times, if you're not going to take it seriously, if you're just going to take your 15 practices, 16 practices, whatever, in the 35-day span, that's fine. Create NIL opportunities, like have tiers. Like Ralph, I'm sure you went. I know my parents took me fan days. Like you had those in the
Yeah.
fall. Create another fan day. There's different levels. Hey, you get to go on the field and catch passes from your favorite team's quarterback, or you get to participate in the autograph day. Like LSU's doing an autograph session, and I think part of it is it's a small fee. It's like $10. You get to kind of go around. They give you a little poster, stuff like that. You get signed. We all did that as kids. Like reintroduce that, and now with NIL, provide an incentive for the players to want to stay and be there for those type of events too. The second part of this, and going back to what Deion Sanders and Fran Brown are doing, and we talk about this a lot, Ralph, inventory, TV inventory. I'll tell you one thing, ESPN, Fox, CBS, they would love to have some type of spring inventory around this time of the year. College basketball dwindling down. Baseball is not into the dog days of summer. We really haven't hit, the prime baseball season. College baseball is obviously, SEC play and stuff like that. But in terms of the national scale, you're kind of searching for content. And I think if you could get Syracuse, Colorado, and it doesn't have to be Bedlam would be awesome. If you get Auburn versus Troy, if you get Florida State versus, Valdosta State. No, but you know what I'm saying? Like you get these opportunities to play games. It's inventory for TV. And that too, I do think that the fans would love it. And also, and I'll say this too, I want this to happen because I feel like the fans need something to go their way. This would be for the fans. The fans have not been valued in the changes made in college football. I think this is a way to say, yeah, we know it's maybe throwing a bone. We know you don't like the direction we're heading. We're going to throw you a bone and give you an extra, opportunity. And kind of what Gundy said and what you said, Freeze said, make it affordable, for families that can't go in the fall to the overpriced games, and allow for, activities. It's don't make it full on, Savannah Bananas type style, but let's have fun. Let's do some things. So I like that. I hope it happens for the fan because the fan needs something in college football.
I'll tell you one thing. If you're a school like Ohio State, coming off a national championship game, you invite all those guys who just played on that team who are gone.
Yeah.
You bring them in. You have them show up, and they sign autographs. They do a meet and greet. They walk around the field and see the players and see the game. And like I remember going to
have an alumni opportunity. Yeah.
Right. I went to the Auburn spring game in 2014. If you remember, that's after the 2013 season, which was the Kick Six of Prayer Hare, the national championship run. Like, some of the coolest moments in Auburn history.
Yeah.
I was there with my granddad, my friend. We're watching, Chris Davis on the field, Trey Mason. They're all going to the NFL. And there's Greg Robinson walking on the field, and they're being honored during the spring game, before their spring game. Bruce Pearl is like 2 years into coaching at Auburn, and he's walking around, and no one really understands what Auburn basketball was at the time and what was going to be like today. But like moments like that, like you saw those guys there. I remember seeing Josh Donaldson was there. I think they were off, and they weren't even like they were close or something like that. I remember seeing Josh Donaldson was there. It was weird.
Yeah.
But he showed up. It was a cool moment for me, watching, all these Auburn greats who were there, and the past team that was there, and and then you got to watch the game. It was fun. But if college football is moving away from this, it's fine. I think it's a good thing, because injuries happen in spring games. You can't have
very true. Yeah,
it's and I know it's rare to have someone get a really bad injury in a spring game. Like, they're not really going full 100% contact. They're trying to, but they're not going to.
Well,
But
to me, that's when you get hurt, when you're not going. But
exactly.
yes, to your point,
you're not trying to go full, you're going to get hurt more. I just read Oklahoma's trying to do they're going to Crimson Combine. I don't know what that will entail for them, but make it something fun for the fans. North Carolina State's doing it the wrong way. They're doing completely closed practice the entire time they're in spring. No spring game, no one can come.
It's a missed opportunity.
But I get it, though, with their situation. There's new OC, new defense coordinator. You need to kind of set what's going to be the season, and you don't want anyone seeing it. No film of that. I get that. It's a weird opportunity for them to really kind of, they're a weird situation for me, because they're on the brink of being really good at football, really good at basketball, or really good at baseball. They got to find their niche and what they're really going to be good at, and what the fans want to show up for all year long.
And to kind of round it out, don't force them to do it. Like, the teams that want to do this, let them do it. The other teams that don't want to, don't take advantage of it. I think it's interesting. You'd have to figure out the TV money of the deal. Like, how does that structure? Does it go individual to teams? That's a headache for people who have much larger paychecks than you and I. So that's interesting. The last part of this, okay, and this is the part I was talking with some of the LSU media about. Ralph, college football is the only sport that does not have any preseason games. So you could have a spring scrimmage. I pitched this idea. Could we see, generally speaking, every team starts fall camp between August 1st and August 5th. Generally speaking, they kind of start the first week of August. You go back to the OTAs, the spring to joint practices. Could you see 2 weeks of fall camp and then some type of light scrimmage between another team? Like, give them a warm-up, give them a game, and then go back into your 2 weeks of prep and fall camp. I know people don't want to give up the valuable practice time, and that's not even from a TV perspective, just an idea. Could we see something go that way? I don't know. It'd be interesting to see. I'd rather see the spring scrimmage than the fall thing. Could you do? I mean, we'll see what happens. I mean, college football is ever changing, but it's just, in my opinion, something's got to change. Whether you do something in the fall, whether you do something in the spring, joint practice, scrimmage, let's change that. Like, we're changing everything else. Let's change that.
Joint practice, to me, it's like watching the NFL. They do the joint practices, and you always see a fight happen. That's. I don't think coaches want to really do that in college. And if you're doing joint practices, you have to do something close. You're not paying to travel to, if you're Auburn, travel to USC and do a joint practice.
Yeah,
they want to do something like UAB, Stanford, Troy, South, UNA, one of those schools. You're staying in state. I mean, I've always thought about this, and I was even younger when I thought about this, is having a spring 7-on-7 tournament with colleges.
Why not?
There's a weekend little thing, start like the SEC does one, ACC does one, Big Ten, all the conferences do their own, and it's just it's nothing serious. It's fun. You don't have to show plays. You're just running random routes,
Yeah.
And you're just out there having a good time, and they do it if the SEC does it, they do it in Atlanta, at Mercedes
ACC in Charlotte. Yeah.
Yeah. And you do it while your championship game is. And it's there's so many opportunities these colleges have to do with this, what they can do with spring games and fall, and even fall wise. I don't see fall really leading into anything because these preseason games. I know what you mean by that. I just don't see that happening. I don't think coaches giving up fall practices at all for, you got guys who are young who are going to play that need those fall practices and need those days of mental reps and physical reps. So I don't see fall practices leaning too much, but it could. If they eventually move on to a preseason game, be really interesting though.
Or let some play your FCS game in week 0. Everyone across the board play a FCS week 0 game. I don't know. It's interesting. College football is ever changing, and we'll see kind of what comes to fruition here with Colorado and Syracuse. I know I'd sit down and watch it. Like I would watch it. I love college football.
Saturday night in like late April, watching a spring football game in college. Absolutely.
Yeah, it would do good numbers. It would. Hey, we appreciate you watching. Appreciate you tuning in. Will spring games change? Let us know down in the comments below. I think they already are, and I hope that we see something go for the fans there as well. He's Ralph Leary. My name's Bryce Coon. Before we get you out of here, we're heading into the weekend of the Sweet 16 and the Elite 8. And we want to tell you about our friends over at mybookie.com. It's MM50. That is code MM50, where you bet and you get back to sweeten the deal. All you do, you place a cash bet on March Madness. So like I said, big time matchups this weekend. You get a surprise reward. Could that be a free bet? Could it be more cash back? I don't know. You got to figure out. Use code MM50 today and tell them the Crowded Booth sent you. We'll catch you next time. Subscribe to the channel. Like all the podcast feeds. Keep getting those numbers up over on the audio side as well. You're doing a great job, and we will catch you next time here on the Crowded Booth.
Pile in here and make yourself feel at home. The Crowded Booth is coming on. The Crowded Booth with Bryce Coon.